Yes, well, let's get some more political reaction now. We can talk to the leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage. Thank you for joining us, Nigel Farage. Well, let's look first of all at those quite radical changes and policies to savings and pensions. Well, that's stolen your thunder, with lots of potential voters who might have looked to you will certainly be thinking very seriously about that offer.
Well, you know, governments do get some things right, and certainly I think the ISA changes are a very good idea indeed. But the thing is, this is called the budget, and what we ought to be doing towards the end of a Parliament, the last big budget before the general election, is looking at the overall budget. And remember, this coalition was formed, you know, the love match in the Rose Garden. It was all about one thing, and that was, by the end of the lifetime of this Parliament, reducing the budget deficit to zero. And just look at it. The projection for this financial year is 108 billion, and it's only just under 100 billion sterling for next year. So we will finish up at the end of the 5 years of this coalition government with our national debt, which we've been accumulating for a couple of hundred years, having risen by 40%. And that must mean that, by definition, the original objective of the coalition has failed.
You can't deny, though, Nigel Farage, that the macroeconomic picture, if you look just at the growth figures in themselves, good news for George Osborne, and he couldn't help himself by repeating it constantly through that speech.
Yeah, I think there are some very good things going on within the British economy. There have been for some years. Good things go on because entrepreneurs take risks and bat off as much as they can excessive regulation and high energy costs because they've got a good idea and they get on and do things. And there are some very good things happening, especially within our manufacturing sector. I don't always think that when economies go well or badly, you can give government the full credit or the full blame for them.
Right, but you are in a difficult position now, aren't you? We've got the European elections coming up and then it'll be full swing to the general election. George Osborne is going to be able, and has demonstrated today, he can do things which will make your lives, particularly in UKIP, much more difficult, and he will appeal directly to your potential voters. How do you mitigate that?
No recession lasts forever. You know, you have 4 or 5 years of downward figures and inevitably after that you get a period of up, and that's what we're going through. And yes, there are some good things happening out there, but I don't think that this government has unleashed the full potential of British business. I think if we look at the borrowing figures, as I've just said, a deficit that is still running at over 100 billion sterling a year, by definition, is a failure of this coalition government. And I think what we're saying is, look, you know, virtually the whole of the private economic sector in our country is now run and governed by Brussels and by Brussels directives. If you remove the 30 billion a year cost of EU contributions and foreign aid, and if you just look at what excessive directives and high energy prices are doing to so much of our private sector, actually, the one thing we have to do, apart from reducing government spending, is to inject real growth into the British economy, and the Chancellor can't do it. Because whether it's on employment legislation, environmental law, there's nothing he can do because of EU law.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much.
Thank you.